Welcome to my very first vlog. I'm Grace and I'm a freelance illustrator. Oh, cool. Ready? So I wanted to talk today about something I've recently had a lot of experience with, and that is working as a freelance illustrator or freelance creator with a 1-year-old baby. Of course, this isn't limited to 1-year-old babies. This is for any small children, and by no means I'm an expert. But, oh, camera's gonna go over. As I was saying, I am by no means an expert, but I feel like I've been thrust into this recently, and I want to share some tips and tricks to help you if you find yourself in a similar situation or hope to be at some point. So I think working as a freelancer and caring for your child, especially when they're very young, can seem so daunting. And in all honesty, it is daunting and it is very, very hard to start with, but then it's not. You reach a rhythm and reach a routine that works for you and for your child. Everybody's will be different. And I'm here to tell you that it can work. As I film with my child sliding down the slide, I think my very first tip would be to optimize and organize your work schedule. Gone are the days when you have endless amounts of time. Gone are the days when you can work long into the night, or maybe you're going to be forced to work into the night instead. So one big thing I've found is to make sure that all the time that you have working is spent doing work. Procrastination is gone. Faffing about, gone. Working in small blocks of time I've found is really helpful. Taking advantage of nap times. My child is someone who likes to nap on me. We call this being nap trapped. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of cuddle time, but also it's a lot of dead time. You can utilize that dead time, even if your child does not sleep on you, if they sleep in their crib. This time is wonderful for me to just get work done on my iPad. There's other times when I actually can't reach my iPad and I have just one hand free. That is admin time. And I will schedule that time just to reply to emails, create invoices, create lists of things I need to do, that kind of thing. Another idea when you're nap trapped is to be in your ideas phase. Every creative knows that when they come to a brief, there's a period of time when, probably to other people, they can look like they're probably doing nothing. That's not the case. It isn't ideas, we're thinking. Everything's in our brains, not necessarily going onto paper, even though going onto paper and thumbnails, etc., diagrams can help and do help. You can really utilise that time when you can't do a lot of other things, just to think, just to be in your quiet time. Think of ideas, think of a brief that you've got or an idea that you want to do, and just embrace that time to think and generate ideas. Okay, so we have my daughter climbing up on the slide, so the camera may be a bit wobbly for a little while. I might cut this. Another tip within that same area is to batch tasks, batch similar tasks together. Do all your admin tasks at once. If you're knocking up one email, invoice, do the rest of them together. Oh my goodness me. And that's another one for organisation, is that if you do have childcare at any point, or you've got, even if it's not a whole day, even if you have hours where you have someone to look after your child, or they're out on a play date or something like that, really use that time, plan for that time. Don't just get to that time and think, what have I got to do? It's really, really important that you plan out what exactly you need to get done and what you can get done in that time. What is going to be most beneficial to do when you are child free. So this will really depend on your child, but there will be times obviously when you don't have childcare, or that you need to work when you don't have childcare. I, for instance, have a few different days when I have childcare, but I often have a brief coming in the middle of the week when there's no childcare. So it's really important to set up a space or have some activities that's child friendly but also allows you to do some work. That could be you set up a really engaging station for your child, depending on how old they are, while you sit and do some work. It might be that you involve them in it. We have one of those phonics wet pads where you use water pens to create colouring. That can keep her occupied for a good 10-15 minutes sometimes, while I can do some drawing. For instance, at the moment, this is my daughter's nursery. I'm sitting not in the corner, at the side of the room while she plays for everything. Yes, I'm having to stop this vlog, the recording, often, and keep looking over to make sure she's not swallowing anything or harassing the cat. But it's working and it works. So I think that's, you have to work with your child. You obviously want to spend time with your child, and they need to have valuable quality time with you and not just be left to their own devices, but embrace the independent play. One for when they're a little bit older. We haven't quite reached that stage yet. Eyes need to be on my child at all times at the moment. But if you have slightly older children, you can use things to minimise the distractions. If it's a case that you find it hard because your children are noisy and you're overstimulated, then use noise cancelling headphones. Use some peaceful music. Work inside where you can see them in the garden. Yeah, you just got to figure out how to keep your child happy, as well as creating an environment that's conducive to work. Okay, so when it comes to taking on work itself, I would say really be realistic with how much work you can do. Something I found, especially, I was very naive, very naive before I had my child. In pregnancy, I thought I was going to have all the time in the world. My child was just going to sleep. I could do everything. But I think any parent knows that the reality, especially mothers, know that the reality is not that. Yeah, when they're little, they do sleep a lot. But you spend a good deal of that time trying to get them to sleep and then worrying that they're going to wake up, and then putting dummies or things back in place that have fallen out, and then sleeping yourself. So the early on stage, definitely I wouldn't advise unless you have to take on many projects. But after that, when you get into a bit of a rhythm, I would still say be realistic. Children are not robots, obviously. They do not stick to a schedule, even the best. My child is very good at sticking to most schedules, but even then, there's times when she's not going to go to sleep when she normally does, or she's teething and it just goes all the way out of the window. So by not taking on too many tasks, I have that room to move things about and be flexible without upsetting any clients. I give myself enough time and a little bit of leeway to be able to finish those projects and do them well, and do them to a standard that not only the client's happy with, but I myself is happy with. Just currently climbing in a box. So I think that in the same vein, you need to really communicate with your clients. Tell them, I work these days. I have childcares on these days. Between these times, I might be working on work during the middle of the night. You can reach me at these times, or I'm available for a call at this time. Just be open and honest. Clients, you might find that some clients can be a little bit demanding, but most I don't think you will find are completely inflexible if you communicate early and tell them what's going on. So for instance, if something goes wrong and you think you need a little bit more time, tell them as early on as possible and be realistic in what you can get done. Of course, I don't think anybody's really prepared until they become a parent or are in this situation that they possibly know what work they can take on. So I would advise, what I did is I started out by doing some speculative projects of setting myself a task and giving myself a deadline, and then seeing actually how long did that take me to do? How long would it normally take me to do, and how long did it take me to do this time? So finding flexible clients is really helpful and essential, but obviously it's not always going to be the case. If you work in something especially editorial, it's a lot of the time that it's not that the art directors are inflexible, it's just that they don't physically have that leeway in the deadline. So it might be that you want to kind of diversify what kind of work you do. If I had thought about this before having my child, I think I probably would have created some products where they have a bit more of a passive income. You could sell prints online, really push your online shop, online courses, so that can make a bit of income for you without you physically having to do any work. And finally, I think a really important point is to not be too hard on yourself. There's being realistic and setting realistic goals, but also accepting that things are not going to always go smoothly. Your life has completely changed. Even if you're not a freelancer and you work for a big company or a small company or whatever you do, work is not going to be the same as it once was. And I think as soon as you accept that, and accept that that's nobody's fault, it's just a part of being a parent, there's a lot less pressure on yourself. I think another point to remember is that this is only temporary. Your child is not going to be small forever. They're not going to need 24-hour supervision forever. They're only like this for a few years, and it's such a wonderful time that you shouldn't wish it away or get frustrated that you perhaps can't do as much work, because before you know it, they'll be off to school, and then you'll have so much free time, and you would have equipped yourself with the tools to optimize your time so well that perhaps you won't know what to do with all that free time. Minnie Mouse. M-I-C-K-Y-M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse. I think another thing is not to feel guilty if you do want to take on that work, but you also want to spend time with your child. I think a wonderful thing about being freelance is that actually nobody can tell you that you cannot work with your child there. I think as long as it works for you, it works for your client, and it works for your child, then embrace that. I think it's really wonderful that I can work and produce some work that I'm really proud of, and still continue to build my craft whilst my child is there and watching and being a part of it. I love to involve her. She sits with me all the time and we talk about ideas. No, she doesn't. She might not understand. She definitely doesn't understand what I'm talking about at the moment, but she will do. And in that way, she's also learning a work ethic. She's learning to doing something that you love, again, which is a massive part of why a lot of people are freelance and decide to go back to work early on sometimes, because we love what we do. I don't think you should feel guilty for doing both and for wanting both. Oof, oof, oof. Oh, wow. What are you doing with that one? Oh! Uh-oh. Okay, so I think that's a wonderful cue to maybe end the vlog, but hopefully you've got some ideas and tips, and just maybe some reassurance that it is possible, it does work, most of the time, it's enjoyable.